Hello, this is Dr. Mike McKinney, and I am president of Promise Christian University here in the beautiful city of Covina. And we're delighted again that you've tuned to our program here today. And we trust you're going to be really blessed by what you're going to hear. We have some marvelous guests in our studio here today, Sister Paulette and Brother Orry Williams. God bless both of you guys. We're delighted to have you in studio here today. And I want to say a little bit about both of them. Sister Paulette, of course, is an outstanding evangelist and preacher of the gospel. And we just know that God's going to continue to open greater and greater doors for her in days to come. And Brother Orrys is also not only an engineer by profession, but he was an Olympic star back in the day in track and field. And we're going to talk a little bit about his participation in the Olympic Games. And so we've got some real great things ahead to talk about. And of course, the wonderful thing about both of these folks is that they love the Lord Jesus Christ with all of their heart. And you'll see that and hear that in their conversation today. We're just so happy that you're on the program. And why don't we start with Brother Orrys. Brother Orrys, thank you for coming here today.
Well, I have to say I thank you to Dr. McKinney for inviting me here and to participate in his daily works.
Sure. You know, both of you have such a wonderful background and career-wise that it's very unusual. And I don't know if you have any books written about yourself, but I sure would encourage you both to get something in writing as soon as you can. I understand that a few years back, when you were a younger guy, you were one of the top Olympic guys in the world. Would you like to share a little bit about how that got started?
How this thing got started, I was a youngster in an island called Montserrat. Because my mother was in the United States, and I didn't have to worry about too many things.
Right.
So I tried everything. And although maybe I wasn't what you call a Christian because I didn't know anything, but I always prayed to God to make me one of the better athletes in the world, because I heard by being an athlete, you can easily get a scholarship in some school.
That's right.
And I worked towards that. So way back in the years maybe before many people were born, I was sent to another island from where I was down there to visit and go to an American consulate where my mother was trying to get me into the United States.
Oh,
so I've already finished all my schooling that I needed in the Caribbean islands. I went to MSS, which is Montserrat Secondary School, and I went as far as the 4th grade. We call it 4th fall, and that's where I went to. We studied many languages, but we can't speak none of them because we did the grammatic part of it. It's a matter of teaching us how to write better letters, how to present ourselves a lot better, and different things of that nature. And then I went into the other island called Trinidad. And while I was in Trinidad, I attended school there also. And after 2 years waiting around in the Trinidad place, I got a call from the American consulate to come into the United States.
Oh.
When I came to Puerto Rico, to nothing I thought of, I got holed up there because they said we were short of a medical paper.
Oh.
So my mother had to fly down from Boston into Puerto Rico to meet with me. And it was really funny, because I've never met my mother before. I didn't know what she looks like. All I was going on is instincts.
I see.
So when they put me in the taxi from the hotel to go to the San Juan airport up there, I came down, got out of the taxi, I heard my name yelling across the phone saying, William Orry, report to the Pan American desk. Report to the Pan American desk, William Orry. And So I was running across the airport, and I had a picture of my mother around my neck, so I just keep looking at it to see and make sure I didn't pass the lady who was supposed to be my mother. And don't let this mistaken you, it was my real mother.
Yeah, your
Not
biological
nobody,
mom.
not nobody pretending to be my mother.
Right, right.
So what I did, I keep running, and the first, I would say, they call them Negro women or black women, and coming, I saw her running down the hallway, looking and gazing all over the place.
Oh.
And I said, I stopped, I said, hey man, are you from America? And this lady dropped her purse and grabbed onto me.
Oh, she knew right away.
Yeah.
You were her son.
And from there on,
Oh,
all
beautiful.
night long, we talked,
Oh, Lord.
and I said, don't worry, you didn't do nothing wrong. Only thing the mistake that you made, you should have brought me over for a few days.
Yeah.
They'd give me a choice whether I wanted to come to America or not.
So your mom and you bonded that day.
And that day, and we
Wonderful. What a reunion that
Right.
must have been.
went to the hotel, and she started speaking, and the tears coming from her eyes.
Oh, of course.
I said, I understand. Your mother, my grandmother, told me everything that happened.
Yeah.
So,
Something
and
happened,
you
yeah.
didn't refuse to take me with you. My grandmother told you, when you're settled in, no matter where you are, I will send him to you.
Okay.
And here am I now.
Yep.
And from there I came into the United States. Actually, I was here in the United States for maybe about 4 months. And I went to a high school they call Roxbury Memorial, but I wasn't supposed to go to that school because I passed all the exams already to go into a school they call Wentworth Institute.
I see.
But I was young enough to go to a high school because my aim was to get a scholarship into a university.
That's right. That was your goal.
That
there.
was my aim.
Oh, yeah.
So I was young enough, and so I went down there. So they had an indoor track meet in New York City.
Now, how old were you at that point?
I was
with Orrys?
16
16 years
17.
old. Okay.
And they had a track meet in the Boston. They're called BAA. I understand Boston at the track meet. And they all
Yes.
normally have one in Boston, one in New York.
I see.
But and I went there, and I promised the coach that I would run. So that year they had to meet in a place they call the Armory in Boston.
Uh-huh.
So I was in New York, and I came back. My mother said, "You made a promise. You have to go back to Boston to run that track meet."
Yeah.
And everybody was excited to see me run. And you know you have to run nearly 20 laps around this arena because of the floor. I
see.
don't know, to run around that thing, it wasn't no quarter mile. You have to run a whole lot of running around that thing. And I was just taking my breath, breathing around, hoping for the big thing, what's going to happen to me. And what happened? In the first 4 laps that I made around that thing, I fell. And when I fell, I see splinters all over my stomach.
Oh.
And next, after I got up and started running again, I lost my shoes.
Oh.
So I kicked both shoes off my feet and started running bare feet.
Wow.
So I had to put up with splinters on the floor.
Oh.
You know, so I had to make choice move. And I just ran and I just ran. With about 5 laps to go around that thing, I ran into, I needed to get up to the top leading 5 people. So I got into that thing.
Got in there.
I said to myself, all I need to do is to wait till the 3rd lap and ease my way up and see if I can get a hole through. And if I got through, I win the race.
Yeah.
Because they have to lean on me to get to the finish
Get
line.
to that breakthrough.
So
Yeah.
when I'm running ahead, after I got through that lane 3, I opened my shoulders to start spread eagle. So in other words, they couldn't pass me on the inside,
Yeah,
and
you
they
had a
couldn't
block.
pass me on the outside.
Mhm.
I just kind of blocked them.
Yep.
So if they run and start pushing, that's so much faster I go to block me inside. And when I won that race, they turned around and said, I didn't know where I was. I was somewhat a little dazed.
Yeah, this
you
pain
know.
too.
So they had to check me for drugs. And after they came up, they made the announcement that you won the race.
Oh, wonderful. With
And
all those handicaps, with all those challenges, you were able to continue on regardless of the hardship and win the race. Would you say that that spirit that you had to do that at that young age prepared you for the future Olympic Games?
Yeah, because yes, I did. I asked, I always made my mind, said that in order to be a good athlete, if you're not crazy, you got to be hungry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if you're
that's right.
hungry, you can win.
Yeah.
But you still have to keep a very stable mind.
That's
And
right.
you got to look at the best. Never, you can congratulate the winners before, but don't go in there and be guilty. You got to talk strong, make some comment, get him upset sometimes, knock him off his rhythm.
Mhm.
Because he knows you're coming and you say, "Yeah, that guy." He turn around and say, "Yeah, this guy think he can beat me." I said, "Sure, I'm gonna whip you the next time."
Sounds a little bit like Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, and then what happens is that I was working on a scholarship, so I was cross-training myself to various different things.
Sure.
Well, I did as well in playing tennis as anything, same thing, because I was on the tennis team. I even tried hockey. I couldn't even skate, but I wanted to get everything I could get. Unfortunately, I wasn't a hockey player, but they gave me a letter anyway to put on my jacket.
Oh, very good.
And I enjoyed it. I played a little baseball, played a little football. Football wasn't really for me. That beating up people, team me up and knock you all over the place, breaking up my nose, messed up my ankles and all kinds of
Oh,
things.
yeah.
And I almost lost my little track scholarship.
Oh.
Northeastern coach decided in Massachusetts was going to give me a scholarship. And I spent about 3 weeks on the campus. And the coach wanted me to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go ahead and work on it. I told the coach, I didn't come here running at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I asked him, could I do that in the afternoon instead of go running in the morning? It's cold in Boston.
Yeah, oh, very cold.
And
yeah.
he said, no, I don't need any two bosses here. I'm the only boss, and he took away the scholarship.
I see.
So because I was kind of a little popular in certain ways, especially on at the Chestnut Hill Country Club where they had the tennis and stuff,
Yes.
and then I went up there, and everybody sees me around. I decided to, I went to work in a Chrysler plant. They had not the plant, it was like a dealership, washing cars.
Okay.
And the boss came up and said to me, would you like to go back to school? And I said yes. And he made arrangements to take an exam down in Yale to get a scholarship. This is not a track scholarship. It was a scholastic thing. You didn't know the work or you don't know it.
Yeah.
So I went up there and he gave me a car and a little money to drive to Connecticut. First time I ever really driving big open highways. So I was like a little kid going up, hoping that I don't get into accident. When I drove down to Connecticut, I went and took the exam. And after I finished the exam, it took maybe a month or two to get the results back. Got the letter, and when they opened it, I was in the top 5.
Wow.
And
Very good.
I got the chance to select any school across the country or the world.
My goodness, what
So
an
I
opportunity.
went to school in Canada. And with 3 months to go before I got my degree, I was drafted by the Army. And
right then.
I asked the Army to give me the chance for 3 more months to go to summer school, see if I can get this degree before I go in the military.
Sure.
And they thought I was trying to play tricks on them, and I wanted to leave and run. I just told them I don't have no countries, but I own an island they call Montserrat, because that's my place of birth. I love that place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do anything wrong. My parents are never going to support me in anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So while he was there frustrated and dancing around, I went to the Marine Corps office and I told him my situation, and they said fine, and I signed for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I went into the U.S. Marine Corps, and I really enjoyed it. It was tough, but when you make up your mind to be something, nothing bothers you from getting to the finish line.
I like that. I can hear a little philosophical thing going on here, that you've carried that heart with you all through your career, and I know that determination, if you're going to do something, be the best.
Right.
And do the best you can to get there. I think that has been your motto since the beginning.
Yes, sir. And when I say yes to something, I will work at it.
Oh, I believe it.
And I like I told my wife and somebody not too long ago that I may have something and it don't work at this period, but I'm not. That thing is still there.
Yeah, you
I'm
never
not going
gave
to
up.
give it to anybody.
No, right.
Months later on, I'll be back on it again.
Wow.
I may be sleeping and they flash across my mind, and now I have an easier way to get into that situation.
Now, when was it that you began to be considered, or you even began to consider a possibility of making the Olympic team for the nation that you represented? How did that start?
It was always in my mind to be a great athlete. You know,
Yes.
It got me to the college level, but I never really had to run to a college seriously because they paid their money for me to be a runner in their school.
I see.
I ran more than the guys who had a college scholarship.
I'm sure you did.
Because that was my, I wanted to be one of the best athletes in the world.
And you were.
Yeah, and I tried.
I love it.
I really tried, and I got where I went. I enjoyed it.
You made it.
Yeah, and
Wow.
at that point, I went to I volunteered for the Marine Corps, and just, after that, because I was selected to run
Yes.
while I was in the Marines.
Oh, and you could have represented the Marine
Yeah, I
Corps,
was.
too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What happened is that while I was in the Marines there in Hawaii, I was on the Marine Corps track team,
Yes.
and we were practicing in the school over there called Puno on their field.
Oh, yes.
And we were running around there and doing things. And someone said they heard my name. Somebody was calling for me. And it was a guy from the island of Trinidad
Oh, my goodness.
calling and says, Orrys, Orrys. And when I said, man, we'd like it to be a substitute. In other words, what do they call it? A guy who, in case of someone get hurt,
Yes.
I would replace them.
You replace it right away.
But my time was so good in the practice that eventually they put me up to finish the race.
Yeah. You got it.
Yeah,
You got the position.
I did what I had to do.
And what nation was it that you represented in the Olympic Games?
Actually, it's all British, so I was with the Trinidadian club.
Trinidad. I see.
Yeah, and
What year were you participating in that?
1964.
You were in the 64 games.
Yeah,
There's
in
a lot
Tokyo.
of famous people that were in the 64
Well,
games.
I knew a number of people from the basketball.
Yeah.
I met them, and I became friends. They didn't know who I was until I came back into the United States. I was talking to some of them.
Yes.
Like, I talked to Oscar Robertson. I spoke with Larry Brown. I knew Jerry West.
They all became famous later. In
Those
the
guys were
professional
basketball
league.
players.
Yeah, that's right.
And what my fame was to myself, because I did what I was told to do. Did what I wanted to do, and I try to pass the same thing over to my son. In all my moving around,
Yes.
let me go back to the real thing.
Sure.
My wife ended up with 3 daughters first, and I wasn't a lovable thing of mine. I wanted to see that boy, and I had to go to my mother, and mother says, "You're going 3 daughters, so now you want to quit?" I said, "I'm not a quitter. I just got to sit back and think if I'm going to have a 4th daughter." I said, I don't want 4 daughters. I say, and so
he's so honest.
So we were down there. The baby, she was pregnant down there having the baby at Inglewood Hospital.
Okay.
Right here in California. Mm-hmm. And they held me up anyway. the doctor, they held me up because my insurance was nil. He held me up until I had to pay money out of my pocket like a deposit to have that baby.
I see.
And I had to head off to New York that night because I was, I'm a promoter. I was trying to sell some things.
Now, back to the Olympics just for a moment. You were in the '64 games, right?
Yeah.
And what were your events when you, and where was the '64
Just one.
game? Okay, you held one event.
It just the one event. That's what they
Okay.
selected me to do. Because
Okay.
they only, I didn't run any short distances. I was a middle distance.
You were middle distance runner.
And long distance. So
Where were the games held, Brother Orrys?
Tokyo.
Oh, that was the Tokyo games.
Tokyo Olympics.
Oh, yes.
And that was a tough year also, because the United States were having some problems there, and because of points,
Okay.
and they ended up winning the whole thing because the athletes really put things together,
I see.
and they were able to pull the win out. And the last race they had to win was a 4x4.
And they did it.
And they did it.
Wow. Wow.
So it was really a great triumph to see, when a little guy like me running around the circles in the auditorium, holding up that flag.
Oh, it must have been a proud
And,
moment, Brother Orrys.
You know what I mean? And every time I get a flashback
Oh, yeah.
of where I came from and
I know what you mean.
how I got where I was.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was a great event, and I always wanted to pass that on to my son.
Yes.
So I was looking for that son,
Wonderful.
and I got that son.
Oh, great.
And I was so fortunate I was able to take him into a place where he could run wild and do things without any restrictions. That was in Honolulu.
Oh.
I see.
So he went over there, met with some good people, went to some good schools, and I was able to get him into some good programs. And he turned out to be a real great athlete, a good athlete
Good.
for the school.
Well, he must be very proud of his
in the
famous
school.
father, too.
Yeah. He went on down and did that. He was also a very good
Is he a
baby.
big guy like you? Is he?
That time he gained a little weight now as an older
Well, in
person.
his prime. In his prime.
In his prime, he was just wiry, just like I was.
I see. Yes,
And
the same type. Yeah.
when he ran, he had a following behind him in Hawaii. They just loved him
No.
because
Wow.
he run and be watching him, and when he runs, he smiles.
Oh, that's good. He's got personality.
And plus that,
Oh.
he was an outstanding base runner in baseball.
I bet he was. You must be very
Yeah,
proud
yeah,
of
he
him.
was. We even had people coming there interviewing him,
Right.
from his seat, what you call the Washington Mariners,
Wow.
Mariners in
The
Seattle,
Mariners of Washington.
from Seattle. Yeah.
Yes. Brother Orrys, would you say that all those years that the Lord has been with you from all that time?
Well, I have to tell you, he was with me all the time.
I love it.
He
Amen.
was with me all the time. Everything I did, he was always there.
Yes.
Because for I was the only son. I was actually the only child, a grandchild my grandmother had, raising at the time,
Yes.
without a mother
Wow.
or father. And she did a heck of a job doing that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And she did. Everybody knew her. Everybody knew me. Even in my adult years, going back there, Paulette is a witness. My wife is a witness. They called me all kinds of names, but they loved me there.
Of course they do.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun
You made him
in that
proud.
island. And my mother used to always tell me, "You need to go back there and run for an office." I told her no.
Well,
Give-
the
give
Lord
it-
had a different plan.
Yeah.
A different plan.
Well, at this time I'm level where I am right here now, up here in Washington. and there's a minister there feels the Lord told him that I'm going to be one of his leading preachers,
Well, praise the Lord.
pastors. So he made me an assistant pastor in his church.
Very good. Excellent.
But I told him, I don't know, because God didn't tell me that.
Okay.
Because somewhere along the line, not the first instance that the God spoke around, we have a ministry, and I'm supposed to be the guy that he put in the marketplace to help financially to take care of that mission.
Amen. Brother Orrys, you're right on target.
And that's that's the reason why that, and
I believe that.
I believe in that
100%.
type of thing, that small churches
Yeah,
struggle so much in this country.
that's true.
And I told God I made a lot of money and I was a fool.
I know you've been very
And
successful.
Because of,
I know.
because of that,
Yeah.
I'm going to work for you now,
Praise the Lord.
and you pay me.
You know, see that's very true, Brother Orrys, because most of us in ministry, I've been in ministry a long time, we were never taught about finances.
Right.
We don't understand it. It's like a foreign language, and so that's why to have someone like you that also is a business person as well as an engineer and a world-class athlete, you understand those things, and I think it's marvelous that you're willing to help, and I appreciate that. We also want to talk to Sister Paulette today too, and your lovely lady here. We want to congratulate you to our viewing audience to let you know that today is their 40th wedding anniversary, and there's still a couple of young kids as far as I'm concerned. So right here in the studio. So how did you meet Sister Brother? How did you meet this great guy? How did all that happen?
Well, it's probably about 43 years ago.
43. Okay.
But we've been married for 40 years.
All right.
And I happen to be a Seattle Seahawk cheerleader.
You were with the Seattle Seahawks. All
Yes, and I was a
right.
cheerleader for Seattle
Wow.
Seahawks.
Wow.
And so he approached me. Actually, the athletes had sent.
I can understand that. I can understand it.
They had said the NBA players had sent in the Seattle Supersonic sent him to go get my phone number because I wouldn't give it out.
I see.
And I was a Christian, and it's like I have no interest in that direction.
All right.
And so they sent him in to be the one because he's very articulate.
Of course.
And they sent him
And
in
of course,
to
a
try to
perfect
get to
gentleman,
me.
of course.
And he's a perfect gentleman.
Oh, I
That's
believe
very
that.
true.
That's
That's the
true.
only reason he got to me.
Mhm.
And so when they sent him in, he did. He talked well, and he got my number.
Were you kind of impressed, do you think, in a way? And
I was impressed that he had the nerve enough to come and approach me because
he was a
the
man
other
enough to-
NBA,
I love it.
the other NBA players would try to approach me. I knew who was married and I knew who was playing around, and I had no interest.
No
in that.
interest whatsoever.
And so he approached me. He was very intellectual
And a serious guy.
yes, and very highly accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did speak to him, and he did get the number. And so, it just becomes history.
Rest is
after that.
history, after they say. I think it's wonderful. Did I understand that he made some kind of an announcement on the microphone or something?
He did.
Did that happen? How did that all happen?
We had a major game at the Seattle Supersonics. I think it was in the Kingdom. And he had the announcer pronounce that that one of their biggest fans was going to be proposing that night.
In front of everyone.
In front of everybody.
God and everybody.
And he presented the ring to me and everything, and the whole, I'm
Oh
young,
my-
I'm going,
Oh my God.
and
This guy is serious.
he was serious.
Yeah.
And so they did that, and he was,
With all the fans and everybody?
they just, and he knew so many of them.
Yeah.
And he knew the owner of the Seattle Supersonics and the Bill Russell, the coach. and
Oh, yes, of
all of
course.
that. He knew all the players, and so they were thrilled to do it, but he did do that.
Wow. Now you had, as a young lady, you had to be impressed by this, and amazed
But
by it.
I was more impressed because I was a Christian all my life. I was
Yeah.
more impressed that he was a gentleman
Yeah, that was
and that he
good.
treated me like a lady.
Oh, I like
That was more impressive to me
Yeah.
than having the announcement, or,
Yeah.
we had the NBA players, they came to our wedding and everything.
Sure.
That was nice, but it was the fact that Orrys was a gentleman.
Mhm.
And he knew how to treat you like a lady. I was never impressed with any man, any boy, unless
Yeah.
they knew how to treat me right.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, that's not unreasonable to ask, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's great. And so he actually was Prince Charming in a way,
Yes.
you know.
And he considered that he was the knight in shining armor
Well, he
to save me
was.
against all the villains that would
Well.
be trying to, approach me.
You know,
He would shield me.
You know, the Lord might have put that in his heart to
I think he
protect you and to love you, you know. You knew this guy was serious. He's not
Yeah.
kidding around. Wow. Orrys, well, you must have been she's such a beautiful woman. You must have been very impressed with her, you know.
Yes, because I've seen them all every night is a game.
Oh, yeah.
I'll see them there, all these girls over there,
Mm-hmm.
doing some things right, some things wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, I selected her because of my fashionability.
All right.
And it developed so strongly that I was able to convert into a different relationship.
Yes.
And she accepted what we spoke about.
It's wonderful.
Turned out to be that way.
And you really fell in love with this young lady. I mean, this was for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's wonderful.
I tell her that all the time, but she think I don't have to even say anything. I just look at her.
Oh, she can. I understand that women have a discerning that us guys don't have, and they can pick up on stuff real fast.
Right.
We're a little bit slow on the draw,
Right.
but they're not. And I think she could tell that you really were in love with her, and really, it was this genuine and sincere heart thing, and she saw that.
Yes,
I
it
love
was.
That's great, and he's a good man. You knew he was a good guy too.
He was
didn't
a
you?
good man.
Yeah, that's.
I always say that God picked very well for me.
Oh yes, he did.
And after 40 years, that was an excellent pick.
Oh yeah, and then you were telling about your dad and your grandpa. They all kind of liked him, didn't they?
They did. When I he was going down to Texas, and he asked me if I wanted to go on the trip, and I said, yeah, because he knew my
Sure.
grandparents were down there.
Sure.
And he met my grandfather and my grandmother, and my grandfather instantly said, "This is the man you're going to marry."
Wow.
And I said, "No, it's not." He said, "Yes, it is." And he took us into the formal dining room and gave us marriage counseling.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like,
Whoa.
I called my mom, tell your father to leave me alone. And she said, Papa, leave her alone. And he continued to give us marriage counseling.
It probably was a revelation from the Holy Spirit. He
was a reverend.
He saw something in the spiritual world that the Lord showed him.
He did, because
Yeah.
the second he looked at him, he said, "This is your husband.
Yeah.
This is
He
the
knew.
man you're going to marry."
Yeah. You were
And then
shocked, but he.
I was shocked. I was. And then my father and my cousin came in, and he was a young boy, and they both said the same thing simultaneously. "This is the man you're going to marry."
Mm.
And I'm confused
Wow.
with, what is wrong with you men in here?
Yeah.
I'm not marrying him. But I already had the marriage counseling. Every male in my family was already confirming it.
See, the guys like him. The guys liked him too. That was great.
But it didn't make sense because they didn't talk to him. They just looked at him.
They can sense it.
It was by spirit.
Yeah.
They just looked at him
Yeah.
and said, "This
They
is
knew.
your husband. This is going to be
Yeah.
the man."
And it was right on. As the Lord had selected Brother Orrys for you, and that he would be somebody that loves you, cherishes you, and would protect you in years to come. Some things that you would need, areas where he could be strong, And the Lord knew that already because he knew your personality and he knew what you were needing as a young lady, and it was wonderful the way he did that.
And I've gotten, because we lived in Hawaii for 24 years,
Yeah.
I have gotten so many compliments on my husband from other Christian women.
Yeah.
And they would just say, he just supports you, and he lets you do whatever you want to do with
I love
church
it.
and with Jesus. And I said, "Well, doesn't your husband?" And they go, "No, I got to be home at a certain time.
Yeah.
I got to, not go to so many church activities." And they would compliment me constantly on him because they said, it is so awesome to see a man that literally allows you to do whatever you want to do Christian-wise.
Yes, I understand.
And they were in situations that they were limited.
Oh, that's a shame.
And I
That's
just
too
thought,
bad.
wow,
Wow.
you know.
How
So
fortunate you are, because you also are an ordained minister of the gospel and
Right.
a tremendous preacher. And Brother Orrys is like he's coming from the born again marketplace, spirit-filled Christian businessman too,
Right.
and an engineer and all that professional stuff. But he also appreciates your calling, not just your beauty and as a woman and all that,
Right.
attractiveness, but your calling as a woman. He understands. Brother Orrys, I have to compliment you that God gave you a revelation of what this lady's calling is without it bothering you. I think it's marvelous. You've always been supportive of her ministry, haven't you, Brother Orrys?
Yeah, I've always, I encouraged her into a lot of things.
Sure.
If she was, even with other stations that wanted her to do things, I encouraged her to go ahead, don't worry about
Yeah.
it. And
Wow.
do things. And,
You know, it takes a strong man to be able to be like
yeah,
that.
don't
you know.
do that. And put it out there and go after it. And
Wow.
whatever it takes, you'll
Wow.
get there.
I think it's marvelous. And I would say that that helped a lot for the success of your ministry, having your husband as not only a spiritual backer in every way, but also an admirer of the calling on your life. And he understands the calling, that it's not gender. It's an anointing that comes from God. It's a calling that comes from heaven to be in the ministry. And for a woman in ministry, knowing the many challenges and difficulties that they face,
That's right.
and then to have a wonderful husband who is supportive of an understanding and appreciates you instead of being resentful. I think
Right.
that's very remarkable, isn't it, these days?
I absolutely think so. That even when I went to a Bible school, a Bible college at
Sure.
a church we were going to,
Yeah.
and they were insistent that your spouse had to agree to it.
Okay.
And so the
Okay.
pastor was asking me, "Oh, are you going to go?" And I was trying to avoid it and run from God.
Well, yeah, that's another story, isn't it?
It is.
That'll be for next time on the other.
I was trying to run.
Okay.
And I went home and I asked my husband, I asked Orrys, I said, what do you think if I went to a Bible college, Bible Institute? And he said, if anybody in the entire world would need to do that and to go, it would be you, Paulette.
Oh, what a wonderful
And he
answer.
said, absolutely, I think you should go. And I was
Right.
like, what is wrong with God and the pastor and my husband?
They all can see this calling, you know.
And I
They
went
can see it,
just
and you
because
did
he
it.
said it. He said if anybody in the entire world that I know
Right.
would be one that goes and does that, it would be you.
And I think it's
And
remarkable
support it.
that they would see that, because you were a cheerleader in the professional league game things and football, and then you could have been an actress in Hollywood if you wanted that. I know that could have happened.
Yeah.
But yet, instead of that, God had a greater calling, and that was ministry. And you're married to a famous guy anyhow, but this was an additional thing, unusual. And yet, God had that He brought you guys together, and this calling that you both have, him in one area of ministry, you in another, and I noticed that I can see that in both of you. It complements both of you, what you're doing here. I think it's remarkable.
Yes, I
Really?
agree. I
Wow.
do agree with that.
And the future looks very, very bright, you know. I think I know. And what would, you guys are so involved in so many things right now, but I usually ask my guests this question. When the Lord gets ready, what would be your ultimate goal or thing you would like to do for the Lord at this time in your life? Because you've accomplished so many, the world would already say you guys are extremely successful. You have been and are. And so been there, done that already. But what would be your ultimate goal or thing you would like to do for the Lord at this point in your life? What would you both say? I'd like to hear from both of you on that one.
What I would say, which I always try to maintain, is I wanted to support all small churches.
Oh, I love it. Amen.
So I asked God to give me one of these programs that I'm working on,
Yes.
to break it open and let me go out and support all those people.
Oh,
Because,
wow.
you know, when you walk into their congregation, you see 5 people here, 2 people there.
Sure.
They gotta go pay the light bill.
Yeah.
They gotta
Oh,
go
I
pay
know.
the
I know
rent.
that one.
And when you're waking on down, they can't go any place.
Right.
And a lot of people, the little one comes in, and you know, you're supposed to get a little tidy and
Sure,
everything. They can't
of
have no,
course.
the tithe money is not enough to buy,
Not
to
enough.
do anything. And the poor fellow has to go out to
Amen.
work, and if he go out to work,
Yeah.
he runs into so many different things.
Yes.
And that's what happened. I was around the Promise Keepers when they closed down their program.
Yeah.
I was at the last one they did it in Hawaii.
Mhm.
And when they went out, when they came back here in the mainland, they broke up.
I see.
And that was because that they had a lot of people who enjoy what they were doing,
Oh, yes.
but the people that was working wasn't dedicated.
I see.
So all they will be living in, I play my guitar to entertain people, and that's it. And I
Yeah,
get paid.
there has to be the real commitment on the
Yeah,
on the
I
team.
believe
the group.
that. I believe it.
Yeah.
What I would like to do is to
So
be able to go around and able to help them so they'd be more
I
dedicated,
think that's
you know,
wonderful.
and things of that nature.
And also, we want to continue to help Sister Paulette in her ministry.
Oh, that would be
Oh, my Lord. That's-
one example of that.
Wow.
I remember when we were in Hawaii, and we were at the Jewish synagogue that we used to go to.
Yes.
And one day they're looking for a leader for they were looking for a leader for the prayer thing that we go to Colorado Springs.
Oh,
National Day of
the
Prayer.
They were
national
looking for a
National Day.
leader for Hawaii,
Yeah.
the National Day of Prayer,
To represent
Hawaii.
Yeah.
And they gave us 2 days
Hmm.
to say yes or no. And we
Wow.
accepted 1 hour after they said it. And we went
Amen.
over there,
Good.
didn't have the money to do that at the time.
Mhm.
I talked to one of the contractors there in Hawaii, and he went and bought me a ticket and paid to help me rent a car, and that was it. And
Well, you guys really went by faith, didn't
yeah,
you?
we went over there and we got in a hotel, and we got a kind of tough start, but we ended up spending close to 6 years, 6 years doing that.
It was an assignment from the Lord. He
Yeah.
wanted you to be the ones to do that.
Right.
He made the way,
So
didn't he?
we're dedicated.
And Sister Paulette, what at this point, I know you guys are a team, of course, on everything. What is it as far as your personal ministry now? We've got the general things, but in your personal ministry, what would you like to do at this point as an evangelist, as a preacher? What would you like to do?
Well, we have Keys of Kingdom Ministries, and that's the name of our ministry.
Okay.
And so what I would like to do is what God mandated me to do.
All right.
That of course I was running away from it,
Yeah.
trying not to do it.
Yeah.
And that is TV and radio. And then I have a book that I'm working on. That,
I think we can help you a little bit on that.
Yes, I've been very impressed today. And so I've got to get back to doing some of that because the mandate that he gave me is so many people, it cannot be done unless he
Yeah.
does it.
Yeah.
And you know that you can see the end from the beginning,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
but
God
when
gives
you
a
see it,
vision.
you know it takes God to do it.
That has to be.
And so there's quite a few things that I need to do and to
Yeah.
step into because as an evangelist, and since I've talked to you,
Yeah.
I've become a pastor.
Wonderful.
And so in order to do that, I have to step into that. It 100% takes God.
That's
So
right.
I thank God that I've connected to you and your wife, Adele.
Oh, we're thankful too, believe me.
Because it's going to be very helpful for me to
Yeah.
move to the next level.
Yes.
And so, and also when God had called me and had me to go to the Bible college,
Yeah.
he said to me that Orrys, his major would be business,
Yes.
and his minor will be ministry.
Okay.
And your major will be ministry, and your minor will be business.
What a
And
wonderful
that his business will supply your ministry. And that's very true for
Oh,
me.
absolutely,
Because I'm not
sure.
one to say, oh, this is the year such and such and give such and such
No.
money.
I know.
I
I
can't
know.
petition people like that. That's just not in
It's
my
it's not
personality.
no.
And so when God said that to me, I said, oh God, that's good.
Yeah.
Because I love that he has that vision to help anybody that's small, or he would just help anybody
I
in
know.
ministry, period.
I think it's
But
wonderful.
I'm so glad that he has that within
Yes.
him,
Amen.
because that's what God said to me, that on the business level, whatever he does would supply the Keys of Kingdom Ministries, would
Wow.
supply our ministry.
Wow.
And I enjoyed that because I love benevolence, but I'm not one for petitioning people for just
Yeah, that's
give
not your style.
give your rent and give your
No,
utilities, and
no,
I'm not like that.
I
And so, and God knows I'm not like that. I put on a
So-
conference,
So the Lord's
and had
doing it
to-
a different way.
Yeah.
But it'll still be accomplished.
but it'll still be
Yes.
accomplished.
Yes.
But it suits me and it
Yeah,
suits
it takes
him.
that pressure off too, having to do things that you first personally don't like to do or agree with. And I think it's the wisdom, I can see the wisdom of the Lord working here in both of you, because you're in prayer together. God gives you the revelation. You both have the vision of what God's calling upon your life. So I'm very impressed with you guys today. I want you to know, we want to thank both of you for being on the Promise Channel today here at Promise Christian University. Orrys, Brother Orrys and Sister Paulette, and we're just so delighted. We've had a marvelous time here today with this wonderful couple, and I trust that you have been blessed by what you've seen and heard today. Imagine a former cheerleader and in professional football, and an Olympic champion, and now they're champions for the Lord Jesus Christ. It's just wonderful today, and I know it's been an inspiration to us here in the studio, and I'm sure to all of you as well. That if God has called you into a ministry of some kind or into a different profession, and you're a Christian, trust the Lord, continue to follow through on the direction that He has brought into your life, and continue to go forward and trust God for every step, and He'll make that step a miracle for you. Want to thank you again for tuning in to the Promise Channel here today at Promise Christian University in the city of Covina in California. And as I always like to sign off by saying, may God bless you real good.